with Dan Albas, the Conservative incumbent for the riding of Central Okanagan, Similkameen, Nicola. Dan, welcome, and right off the top, why should the constituents of your riding give you another 4 years?
Well, first of all, I work very hard to listen to every part of this riding. It's a big area, and you know what? Lots of people have important ideas that they want to see reflected in Ottawa. And so whether it's breaking down interprovincial trade barriers for wine or for beer and spirits, etc., that it's going to help some of those small family businesses to get back on their feet, to expand their markets. That's something I've been listening to, but also trying to help people with student debt. In fact, I've tabled legislation on both those subjects because I know out of COVID, we need to get people back to work. We need to give them new markets. We need to give them the encouragement. And that's really what a member of parliament should do. They should listen to their constituents. They should reflect those in what they say in Ottawa. I try to work very respectfully. I'm tough on the policies and good to the people. And at the end of the day, I'm looking for people's vote because I believe I can be a representative that they can be proud of. They may not always agree with every vote, but they will know that I've done my homework and I've listened to them.
You mentioned right off the top the interprovincial sale of beer, wine, spirits, which has been a pet project of yours since you became an MP. Why is this taking so long to implement what seems to be a very simple process?
Well, first of all, it isn't a pet project. This is something that constituents, when I first ran for public office, I heard from all political stripes and even nonpartisan people who just wanted to see a greater market for their products. We know that when Canadians can compete, we can do it with the best of them. And so to see provincial liquor monopolies continue to push back against this movement, well over 90% of the population supports this. So my latest bill, C-260, unfortunately it's now dead because of the sudden snap election call. It's something that I've been talking with my leader, and he wants to see more trade within Canada because there's great opportunities, and especially coming out of COVID. Look, the foot traffic from tourism dried up. People weren't going to these small businesses, whether it be a brewery or an artisan distillery or a winery, because they were afraid of COVID. And so those people have been hit the hardest, even though some of them have been making things like hand sanitizer, often for free. And so, you know what, we need to show them that there's a government that understands their situation and wants them to grow. And as I said, when Canadians decide we want to do something, we can compete with the best of them. Just look at the world-class wines we have here in the Okanagan. And I would also say the Similkameen Valley has come along tremendously, and that's an economic driver for there. So I want to be a member of parliament for this area that champions local issues and gets results.
We've talked about the size of your riding from urban Kelowna to very rural Logan Lake and other areas, and thank goodness they're safe and made it through the fires. The issues that you hear, I'm sure, are very diverse from community to community, depending on size and what's happening. What are some of the issues you're hearing?
Well, first of all, the snap election and the timing was absolutely terrible. And so whether you're in the Central Okanagan, where we're wrestling with higher COVID numbers because of the Delta variant, whether we're looking at the people at the time in Logan Lake. I was there the Sunday night where Merritt was put under an evacuation alert. And I tell you, people who are displaced, that weren't even sure where they were going to be a week from now, to start talking to them about an election, quite honestly, they were frustrated and if not mad. So, so all around the riding, that's what I've been hearing. I've also been hearing that affordability is becoming more and more of a problem. I mentioned students dealing with student debt, but there's also seniors that are asking, how am I supposed to pay for these rising gas prices? How am I supposed to pay for these rising grocery costs? You know, in our Canada Recovery Plan, Erin O'Toole has said that we want to get more competition in things like the grocery sector. We want to have more competition in things like telecom. And having new ideas to be able to deal with inflation, to make things more affordable, to let people be able to get into a home. Look, I've mentioned students a couple times. It's not just students, it's their parents and grandparents that are wondering, how are they going to be able to have the same kind of opportunities that I was fortunate enough to have? And you know what? If the government right now isn't thinking about those things, well, Erin O'Toole wants to have that position as Prime Minister and to lead a government that will deal with those things. So we're despite the snap election call, we have the ideas. Every day my leader's been out there talking about them, and I've been posting a number of social media about how they affect our local area. That's what I think people want to see, a positive vision for Canada and for our region.
Let's talk COVID. You were fairly quick to condemn the protest in front of the hospital earlier this week. What would a Conservative government do to, get us to the point where we can actually get out of this?
So first of all, I'm vaccinated. My leader is vaccinated. We're encouraging everyone to take those opportunities. I've highlighted how there are vaccine clinics throughout our riding and encouraging people, because that's what's going to get us out of there. But look, there are some people that either have immune system issues or perhaps mental health, or perhaps they're just vaccine hesitant. And we need to be talking to their better angels. We need to be giving them the reasons for why the science works and how vaccination protects all of us. There is always going to be some of those people that are adamantly opposed to vaccination. They're going to exist. But there's also that spectrum of people that we need to be appealing to. Myself as a public servant, I believe that we shouldn't be demonizing those people. I think we need to be drawing them in and talking to them about how vaccinations can get us out of this. I know that Aaron O'Toole, I know that my whole caucus are working hard to give people a positive campaign and not simply politicize an issue. In fact, health professionals from across the country have said, don't make this a political issue. Now, when it comes to that particular protest, I think it's important to note that everyone has a democratic franchise that they can protest. It's the location. That area in our riding, that strip right along the hospital, is very narrow. The footprint of the building is quite tight, and we're very fortunate that no one got hurt because an ambulance driving through or someone not paying attention could cause an accident. So there's other places that people can do those things, and I want to encourage people to do that. I also want to encourage them to talk to their members of the Legislative Assembly and talk to all candidates, because when people are being heard and they see themselves being reflected in government policy, this country becomes stronger.
Do you believe it's the federal government's responsibility to introduce a passport or a proof of vaccine, similar to what the provincial government has?
So it's actually a provincial area of jurisdiction, and quite honestly, we want to see a little bit of less of Ottawa knows best pushing into areas of provincial jurisdiction. Look, I'm an accountable Conservative, so I believe that ultimately there's a line of accountability, and it's easier to hold a plurality or majority of MLAs in the Legislative Assembly accountable for their votes and for government policy than it is to hold 170 MPs from across the country. So I respect that there is a lot of questions about that. I encourage people to speak to their member of Legislative Assembly. We have some very competent MLAs here who are hearing from people so that they can have those concerns heard. At the federal level, we are talking about a strong plan to get Canada back on track. So to get us past COVID, to make sure that we have proper stockpiles of PPE and we have that domestic vaccination supply. So whenever another pandemic comes up, we are prepared as a country. And we also want to see people getting back to work. And I will tell you, I've spoken to some small business people, and they're just having a heck of a time trying to keep their doors open. We need to make sure that we have a government that's focused on bringing people together, doing good things so that we all can get to work and we can fight COVID at the same time.
If you are fortunate enough to be re-elected into Parliament, what's your goal for the riding as far as federal funding, provincial funding for projects? What's at the top of the list?
Well, infrastructure is incredibly important. We already know that BC Hydro is second line. That's a provincial argument. And we need to look at the redundancies when it comes to here. We have many cases where a landslide or a forest fire blocks off Highway 97, and that cuts people off from being able to get to work. And so there's some redundancies that we need to have put in place, and we need to cooperate with the provincial government, because ultimately Highway 97 is a provincial road. So building redundancy, I do know that there are areas around climate change, particularly building more reservoirs or building in wetland protections so that we can use nature-based climate solutions to deal with flooding or to deal with drought. I also know that ranchers, farmers, and even foresters are having a heck of a time with some of these extreme conditions. So a conservative government would work on those things. And for myself personally, again, the subjects I've raised around incentivizing students, through the Canada Student Loans or Apprenticeship Loans program, so that they have a little more money in their pocket and can pay off their loans more rapidly. I've already introduced that legislation. I'd like to have a bigger conversation in Ottawa on that. And of course, dealing with these interprovincial trade restrictions, particularly when it comes to beer, wine, and spirits. Look, we can use Canada Post Corporation. That's what it was meant for. It was meant so that Canadians can send mail and other items to each other. And you know what? That's something I really think that everyone I've spoken to, it doesn't matter if they're political stripe or if they're not even political at all, they want to see a solution to that. So I'm going to lead those arguments in Ottawa. I'm going to continue to listen to people, take their concerns, and you know what? It's been a big honor so far, and I really believe that there's a lot more we can do, especially after this pandemic, to strengthen this country and to strengthen our ties to one another, especially within our region.
Dan, I finally want to give you a chance to give your best pitch to your constituents. They're on the other side of the camera. Just why should they vote Dan Albas September 20th?
You know, ever since I've run for public office, I've made listening to people and being accountable to them the number one thing. So I personally return phone calls. I write a weekly column. Thank you to your crew as well as other newspaper publications for running it, so I can get that feedback from people and find out where people are at, and then to take those ideas and put them forward respectfully. I try to be a respectful person in Parliament. I also am, like I said, tough on the issues, but good to the people. And if we're going to build this country up, if we're going to build our region up, we need someone who can listen, see the opportunities, make it a discussion in Ottawa, and then get real results for our communities. I believe I'm that person, but whatever people end up deciding at the end of the day, democracy wins, so I encourage everyone to get out and vote.
Dan Albas, incumbent Conservative in the riding of Central Okanagan, Similkameen, Nicola. Good luck on September 20th, and thanks for this.
Thanks.